Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Lenny's Fishing. So today we're going to do a two-parter. This is going to be part one. We've come up with Dunstanburgh Castle, and all I've brought with us is a lure rod and a carp rod. So I'm going to do a little bit of float fishing with a carp rod, and obviously a bit of lure fishing with this rod. And then I'm going to camp in the camper van, and tomorrow morning I'm going to get up bright and early and go and fish the rocks over low tide with some fresh peeler crab, and see if we can do a bit cod fishing tomorrow as well. So it's quite breezy from the southeast, which is why I've came here, just so the wind's on me back. But I tell you what it is, it's a given, because it's 29 degrees inland, and on the coast here it's 22, because that bit southeasterly breeze is knocking the heat off, which makes it bearable rather than unbearable. But anyways, I'm going to get the float rod set up first, and then the lure rod, and then we'll start with some float fishing, and then do a little bit of lure fishing after that, and I'll bring you back once everything's set up. Right, so that's the float set up, done. I'm going to go super light with a braid, 23-pound braid, and I've tied, you probably can't see on the camera, but a tiny little stop knot on there, using a uni knot with some 20-pound line. That stops the float from sliding up the line. I've set it to about 15 foot deep. I've got a nice long hook snood on there, and I'm just starting off with a size 1 up-tied hook, because I'm just going to be using ragworm baits targeting pollock, and a few small crab baits trying for a few coalies as well. Now, I have brought this just in case I get any big pollock and I cannot lift them on the carp rod. This is a drop gaff. It's got a split ring on there which clips into the braid, and then you slide it down the line all the way down the end of the cliff or wherever you're fishing, and it's designed so that, say this is the fish's head, the drop gaff goes over the top of the fish's head like so, and then obviously you pull it into the gills, and you should be able to just pull that up the side of the cliff. These are made in Australia. This is where I got this one from, and the guys in Australia use them quite often because a lot of their fishing involves fishing from quite tall cliffs and stuff like that. So for the sake of carrying it here, just in case, I thought I'd bring it. Because in the past when I have fished on here, I have lost some big pollock on top of the water, which I haven't been able to get up the side of the cliff. And I've also had cod as well, a 5-pound on the carp rod, when I've decided to stick a bait on the bottom, which I might do later on, because I haven't brought any big rods, but it still won't put us off putting a bait on the bottom if there's nothing doing with the float or the lure. So I'm going to get the float baited up, get the first chuck out with that, and then I'll bring you back hopefully when some action starts. Right, so we're ready to go, baited up. I'm just going to show you there. So there's a nice big juicy wild ragworm, and we'll go for the first chuck and see what happens. Here it goes. Just going to flick over the front of here. That'll do. You can see that float there on the side, and then it pops up. And now it's a waiting game. So I'm just going to sit down, and hopefully this is going to shoot under the water. We'll have a few chucks with a ragworm, and if that doesn't work, then what we'll do is we'll try a bit of crab, just to see if there's any coalies there. And obviously during the process we'll alternate the depths as well. So we're starting with 15 foot. I might go as deep as sort of 18-20 foot, and as shallow as about 6 to 8 foot, depending on how it goes. But I'll start with 15 foot and then we'll work from there. Right, first chuck, float's gone straight underneath and we've got a fish on, but I don't know what it is. It feels like a mackerel. What is it? Or is it a small coalie? Oh, it's a small coalie, look. There we go, good start. That was pretty quick. So there it is there, look. And now it's going back. And as you can see, that swam straight off. It's not ideal chucking fish back from this sort of height, but if you land them properly like that did, they just go straight away. Right, well that's a good start. Now we'll get another bait put on. Hopefully there's some bigger coalies about, because they usually put up a good scrap when they're a bit bigger than that. Here's the ragworm going onto the hook, so I'm just going to pinch its head through there, try and feed it all the way down. Obviously just pop its head over the eye of the hook like that. Keep going. And then once it gets to about there, I'll just push it up like that, just so its tail is flapping around in the tide a little bit. And that's ready. Hopefully for a nice big fat pollock, but any fish will do. It's good sport. Right, so we'll keep the same depth as what I had that last chuck, because that was pretty fast, that fish, so I'm just going to do exactly the same again. And I like to just sit down here whilst I wait for the float to go under as well. Just be really careful if you do come to this place, guys. It's quite dangerous. Obviously, you're on the edge of a cliff. Got to really be careful and watch every single step that you take. But it is a beautiful part of the country, guys, as you can see. Many of you who are watching have probably fished here before. And it's a right old walk from the car, especially on a day like today when it's really hot. Fantastic sign though, getting the fish that quick on the first chuck. However, as always, you start worrying that it could be the first cast curse. So there's every chance of getting a nice big pollock here, or a wrasse, or a few more coalies, hopefully a bit bigger. And I've also had the odd codlin here on the float as well. So as I said on the beginning of the video, the plan is we're going to fish here this evening, obviously with a float, do a little bit of lure fishing. I might try a couple of chucks as well, with a big crab on the bottom, just using the carp rod. And then we're going to camp in the van, and tomorrow morning we're going to get up nice and early and go and fish on the rocks, maybe beadnell or something like that over low tide, and try winkle a few codlins out of the kelp. And I might also take the lure rod up there with us as well, just in case there's any bass or sea trout kicking around. Little bit of a tip as well for anyone who's never done any float fishing with braid. It can be quite tricky to get the float up the braid. So usually what I'll do is I'll tie a bit of mono, about 20 pound, onto the end of the braid, just using the tiniest little knot that I can to join them together. And then I'll slide obviously the beads, the float weight, the other bead, all up the mono and onto the braid. And then I'll snap the mono off and tie the swivel onto the end of the braid. And that's the easiest way to get the float up the braided line. Because if you don't do that and you're using really thin braid, it just tends to like bend when you're trying to put it up the float, and it's really hard to get through. Right, the float's just shot under there. And it seems that we've caught a tiny little wrasse, which I think it's a gold cinny. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not very good with me wrasse species. I know what a cuckoo wrasse looks like, and I know what a ballan wrasse looks like, but I'm not 100% sure whether this is a small gold cinny. If anyone could let us know in the comments. It's full of lice. It's got a few lice on the side of it as well. Anyway, he's a nice looking little fella, isn't he? There you go. I've had bigger goldfish when I was a kid. He should go back, no bother, with only being small. Won't be much of an impact when he hits the water. Let's have a look. Right, 2 fish and 2 chucks. Good going. Right, I'm going to try a different method this chuck. I'm going to leave the ragworm up the hook as it is here, like so. And with the new ragworm, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to head hook this one. So I'm just going to pop the hook through its head. Like that, and then I'm going to bring it round and just do it again, like so, and we'll try that and see if we can get a nice big pollock. I've got the float down there and I'm just standing on the bottom of the rod just so it can't go anywhere if it does decide to go under. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm just going to have a quick couple of chucks with a lure. I've got a little 28 gram soft plastic minnow on, weedless. I'm just going to have a few flicks with that just in case. And if I do get a take whilst I'm lure fishing, I'll just drop the lure rod and pick the float rod up, no problem. That float's just going under there. Oh, and I missed it, I think. Have I missed it? Right guys, that's why you don't lure fish at the same time as float fishing. I knew exactly that would happen, but I'm just impatient, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to put up with the losses of stuff like that. Never mind. I'll make that mistake again in about 5 minutes. There's the newest ragworm ready to go out. I'm actually going to keep a hold of the float rod this time just in case it happens again. Just had a really good take there. Oh, there we go. Right, we've got another fish on. Again, it's only small. It's another wrasse. It's another small wrasse. I'm sure that's the same fish I just caught. The one I just put back. Hey. That one looks like a small ballon. It's a little bit bigger than the last one. Oh. There you go. Well, at least we're getting a bit of sport. That's all you want, isn't it? Oh. There you go. Fish number 3. Bloody hell, he's eager to get back, isn't he? We'll try one more, I think, with a ragworm. And then, failing that, I think we'll move on to some crab and try a crab bait. I'm just going to go back to basics with this one and just thread it up the hook. There we go. Right, let's try again. I'm going to go even deeper this time. Just another foot. And just a little flick. Perfect. That's exactly where I wanted it, that. Just up against the side of that ledge here. And if anyone's wondering why I'm wearing gloves, it's not because I don't want to touch worms with my bare skin. Well, it is, but it's not because I'm scared of them. It's because I'm allergic to them. I'm allergic to crab and mussel and everything, so I've got to wear gloves. Otherwise, my hands end up rotten. And for this chuck, I'm going to stand here. Just going to stand here and try and get it as close to that ledge as possible, just down there. Absolutely spot on, that's exactly where I wanted it. So the idea is that there'll be a few pollock. See that little ledge there, just on the right hand side where it goes down? My thinking is there might be pollock patrolling. Oh, that was straight away. There you go. Spoke soon there, didn't I? What we got here? From above, it looks like a small pollock, actually. Yeah, it is. So there you go. I was bang on the money there. Not the size that I wanted, but the theory was definitely correct. That was instant. He's absolutely swallowed that. So that's a coley, a pollock and a couple of wrasse. Definitely one of them a ballon, and the other one, I don't know if it was a small ballon or a gold cinny. Hopefully there's a few bigger ones down the side there. I'm going to have another chuck with ragworm now and chuck it in the same place. Right, I'm going to chuck in exactly the same place. I did have to chop the hook on that last fish just to give it a fighting chance because it absolutely swallowed it right down. Right, I'll see if I can get this in exactly the same place because that was perfect where it landed last chuck. Spot on again. Hopefully I can get another one just as quick, and hopefully this one's a little bit bigger. It's a great buzz watching the float shoot under the water though. That float's just knocking off that ledge here. I'll just dragging it along a little bit. There. Nah, for some reason it's just going on the bottom like. I'm going to have to make it even shallower. It does take a bit trial and error float fishing like. Right, we'll try that. Another little thing I found as well is if your float's been out for a few minutes and it's not getting any takes and it just seems to be sat stagnant and you start losing confidence. Sometimes if you just lift the rod up a little bit like this, just dead slowly, just moves the bait and then dead slowly back down, that can entice a few fish, especially if they're like very predatory and territorial, then they'll just dart out and attack it straight away. Doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it can. Right, that's enough of that. I'm going to have a few chucks with the lure rod and then I'll bring this back if I get anything on the lure rod, and then once I've had a few chucks with the lure, I'm going to put some crab on the float. So I'll see you very shortly. Right, well I didn't get any takes at all on the lure. Had about 10-12 chucks of it and then it got snagged. So the 28 gram soft plastic minnows no more. But I've put the crab on and I'm going to have a shot with this on the float, just to see if that crab makes any difference. Just adjust that a little bit deeper. And a bit deeper again. Right, we'll try this. Go on. Ah, missed it again. What's going on? I've got a fish on here. Hey. Right, it's another collie on the crab this time, and it's a little bit bigger than the first one I had out, but they're still not the size that you usually get up here. I mean, I haven't been up here for a few years, like, but used to get loads of big collies on the float. There you go, small collie. I've decided to switch it up this chuck. So what I've done is I've put crab on, and I've also head hooked the ragworm as well. And then at least if the ragworm gets pulled off the hook, there'll still be crab on there. And also, if there's any nice pollock there, that'll attract them. So I'm just going to chuck it along where I just had that collie. There we go. See if we can do it again. Yeah, but like I say, had some fantastic sessions up here in the past with some nice collies. The bigger collies did tend to vanish from the northeast coast quite a lot of years ago, but you still used to get them up here. Oh, I've just had a take there straight away. Like I was saying, you used to still get them up here in good numbers, but I haven't been up here for a couple of years now, so I don't know whether they've vanished from here now as well, or whether it's just one of them days that they're not there. Well, since that tide started ebbing, it's gone extremely slow. I haven't had a fish now for about 45 minutes. The float's obviously getting dragged along a lot quicker, but you would think a little bit more movement would entice a few more fish, but clearly not. I might give it another hour or so with the float, and if it doesn't pick up, then what I'll probably do is just put a drilled bullet lead on, straight flush to the hook, and chuck out and try the crab on the bottom, just to see if there's any codlins there. I've done it here in the past with a carp rod and I've had them, so it's worth a go. Just going to go and stand here, just whilst that float drags into the side. Right guys, this is the last chuck with the float, because it's been about 45 minutes and I still haven't had a bite. So, double ragworm on, and if this doesn't work I'm sacking it, and then I'll have a few chucks with the crab, obviously on the bottom, just to see if that brings anything. So we'll get this one out there. Well, I've got a fish on straight away on the double ragworm, and I think, whoa, it's a pollock, it's just jumped out the water. I've never seen one do that before. Bloody hell. It's only a small one like, but that was instant. Right, let's see if we can land it. Hopefully the hook doesn't pull. I've never seen a pollock jump out the water like that before, like. There we go. Right. It's always when you say you're going to have one last chuck, isn't it? I think that bait was irresistible for this fella. There you go. He actually literally jumped about 2 foot out the water. You know, like when you see a trout jump out the water, that's what happened there when I was reeling it in. So there you go. Small again. I don't know where the bigger ones are, but good sport on the float gear. I'll get this one unhooked, and I think I'll have another chuck in the same place. Right, we'll try that method again, look. Just realised that my sunglasses on sunglasses because there's no sun. So yeah, we'll try that method again. And I'll try and chuck it in the same place. I mean, lightning very rarely strikes twice in the same place, but you never know. Right, yeah, I was hoping there. Like I say, that was instant that. As soon as I hit the water, I turned the camera off, and the second I turned the camera off, it darted under. I wouldn't care as well. I've just took my chest cam off, and that would have caught it jumping out the water if I had it on. But it's dead, and I need to keep the rest of the batteries for my main camera, so... Right, we're into another fish. This was the last ragworm bait as well. What we've got, small again, like. I think it's another pollock. They all seem to be the same size, but the main thing is I'm getting the target species, so yeah, another small pollock. Right, there you go. So that's 3 pollock out on the float, 2 coalies and 2 wrasse. And that's the end of the ragworm. So I'm going to have a couple of chucks with some crab on the bottom now, again using the carp rod. And I'll show you how I go about doing that when I haven't got any rigs and stuff with us. There you go, another juvenile pollock. Fantastic sport on the light gear. As I say, target species, and in a few years' time, they'll be nice sized fish. So the first thing I do is I get a drilled bullet weight, and I just thread that up the braid. And then what I do is I get some beads, and what the beads do is they just stop the drilled bullet weight sitting flush on the hook. Because as I say, the hook's going straight to the end of the braid. Because we haven't got any rigs or anything like that in this bag. This is a really good and effective way of fishing when you haven't got any big gear and any rigs and stuff. And it's counted for quite a few decent wrasse actually for me. And I've had some nice cod doing it. And then I'm just going to put a doctor's loop in the end of the braid. And then I'm just going to get this hook. They're the biggest hooks I've got on, is all my cod gears in the van still, so I'm just going to have to make do with what I've got. And then the doctor's loop just goes back over on the hook, and then that's that done. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's all sitting together. So that's all it is. It looks absolutely ridiculous. It does look stupid, but honestly it works a treat. I'll get it baited up and I'll show you once it's baited up. That's what it looks like when it's baited up. Like I say, a little bit crab on, 1 ounce drill bullet and a few beads just so the drill bullet weight's not sitting flush to the hook. And we'll have a chuck, see if we can get anything on the bottom. I say I probably only have one or two trucks like this, but it's worth a go. See if there's any codlins there. Right, I'm just getting a bite here now, guys. It's swimming towards us. Just gonna wait for it to go over. Are you ready? There it is. Slacklining us. Next bite, I'm gonna reel into it. Oh, I've missed it. Nightmare. We'll try again. Oh. I don't know how I keep missing the bites. I don't know if my hooks are too small. That was another good bite. It's frustrating, that. Hey. Well, that's that. Well, it wasn't to be. So that snapped off. And to be honest, I'm going to call it a day for here. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, make sure you like and subscribe. And make sure you stay tuned for part 2, because I'm only going to go to the van and go to sleep, and then first thing in the morning, I'm going to get up and get back out on the rocks. I just don't know where I'm going to go yet, but I'll have a good think about that when I get back to the van. So yeah, it's been an enjoyable session. I hope a few people have been able to pick a few tips up from the float fishing. So I landed 7 fish, 3 pollock, 2 cod and 2 wrasse. Unfortunately, there was nothing on the lure rod, and I was getting a few bites there with the crab on the bottom, but obviously I've lost it and I can't really be bothered to set back up because I'm going to be out in the morning. So I'm going to keep the crab for that, and hopefully tomorrow morning I can get into a few nice codlins. So you'll see this video as part 1, and then a couple of days after this video, part 2 will be released. So just keep an eye on it. And until part 2, tight lines, and thanks for watching.